that the Los Angeles Lakers, since we've left here Friday at noon, have fired a head coach and hired a new head coach. When we left on Friday, Mike Brown was still head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Less than an hour after we left here, Mike Brown was no longer the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
No.
Before we walk in the door this morning, well, really before I go to bed last night, I'm assuming the conversation today is going to be, who should the Lakers go hire? Mike D'Antoni, Phil Jackson. I'm figuring we're going to have a little back and forth about this. I'm thinking this will be a fun conversation for the show. And then I get up in the morning.
Well, everyone knows the right choice would have been Phil Jackson.
I think I can completely and utterly agree with you on that one.
But they kind of had to go with option B because apparently Phil Jackson just didn't want to come back.
See,
Not for them,
heard,
anyway.
I heard different. I heard Phil Jackson wanted to come back. He was due to fly out to Los Angeles to start negotiating a contract today.
No, that wouldn't have happened if... No. I don't think they would have just signed D'Antoni without having gone through that process first.
Well, from what I've heard was that after the game on last night against the Sacramento Kings, they felt, ownership of the Lakers felt that going with D'Antoni and a more offensive-minded head coach would fit them better than going with Phil Jackson, who's more of a, in my opinion, Phil Jackson's just more of an all-around head coach. He's not really, specific to one side of the ball or the other. But another name that was out there was also Brian Shaw, a longtime assistant of Phil Jackson's when they won the championships in Los Angeles, a close friend of Kobe Bryant's, a guy that's been in touch with the organization for a while, and actually the guy that a lot of people in Los Angeles thought was going to take over for Phil when Phil left the Lakers.
Yeah.
And instead they go the Mike Brown direction, which I didn't like from the get-go. I didn't think he fit what they wanted to do out in Los Angeles. I just didn't think he fit that style. Now, they call his offensive style the Princeton style of offense. Good morning to Julie Jules in our chat room. But no matter what that is and what that isn't, all I know is that Mike Brown, to me, has never been that good of a head coach. I thought he was pretty good in Cleveland. I thought him and LeBron had a nice little thing going on. But LeBron leaves and that team doesn't win 20 games. You know what I'm saying? So obviously I'm not saying LeBron is the contributor of the other 40 that they won when he was there, or the 35 or whatever the difference was. But as a head coach, you think if you're winning 50-plus games for 6 years straight, you'd like to think that the guy had something in plan for if you lost a superstar. So I've never really liked Mike Brown, but I always have disliked Mike D'Antoni. I've never thought D'Antoni was a good head coach. Never. And I just don't see why or where the Lakers come from thinking that that was a good move. So obviously we both agree that Phil would have been the better option. Do you like the D'Antoni hire, though? I mean, do you think D'Antoni's a good head coach? I mean, especially being a Knicks fan, you have more of a personal, dislike or like towards the guy than somebody that hasn't had him coach their team.
I didn't mind him as a head coach, honestly, when he was with the Knicks. I can see what you're saying, though, as a lot of people don't like him because he doesn't coach any defense, and he's made it a point to not coach any defense. It's just, that's part of the reason the Knicks actually brought in Mike Woodson as an assistant coach, was to help out with the defense, because D'Antoni just doesn't care about it. He would rather just outscore you. And the Lakers have that ability to just outscore people. So I look at it as maybe he could be the right fit, because already they're kind of defensively motivated by themselves with Dwight Howard and Kobe. They play some defense now. I mean, Nash still won't play any defense. Pau Gasol won't play any defense. But if you can get the rest of the team to play defense, maybe you could make this work and you can start scoring and beating some teams, because the Lakers through their first 4 games didn't even hit 100 points. When they were, or through their first 3 games this season, they didn't even break 100. And with the talent they have on their roster, they should be scoring 100 plus every single night.
I
So
think that's
maybe
fair to
they
say.
brought him in because that Princeton style of offense wasn't working for that team. So they had to switch it up. And the one thing D'Antoni can coach is offense.
And there's no
And
question about that.
And he's worked with Steve Nash in the past, so it's not like he's unfamiliar with the guy he's got who's going to run his system. So to me, it could be. Plus, it's apparently a guy that Kobe really respects, and Kobe has actually some type of relationship with.
Well, yeah,
believe it or
Kobe
not.
and Dwight both played with him for the 2008 USA basketball team.
Yeah, so I mean, they have some type of continuity with him already. They know him, they're familiar with him. And again, I don't think this is a move that they would have made if the players weren't going to be okay with it, because Buss actually sat down with the players and had a players type meeting and said,
Yeah.
"Listen,
What do we need
what
to get
direction do
win?"
you guys
Yeah.
want to go in?" And I look at it as they had to have thought that this was the best option other than Phil Jackson.
And see, you said something that I actually think is one of the reasons that maybe they did go this way. Look, Dwight Howard prides himself on his defense. He finds honor and pride in winning Defensive Player of the Year. He finds joy and happiness in protecting the paint. So you're not going to have to really tell him to go play defense. Kobe Bryant finds pride and enjoyment in playing really good defense and stopping the man that he's guarding. So you're not going to have to worry about it with him. Meta World Peace, same idea. That guy has rested his hat on defense his entire career. So you have guys on your roster that truly do believe in defense no matter who their head coach is. And I think that's a big deal. I really think that you look at this team, and I can see how D'Antoni fits, but I still think Jackson would have been the better option. I think Jackson would have been the better way to go, but at the same time, you know what? A man that, probably wouldn't want to travel to all the road games, a guy that's going to want leeway here and leeway there and this and that and the other thing. Maybe that's too much stress for the ownership. Maybe they just don't want to deal with that. Maybe they want a head coach that's going to travel to every road game. Maybe they want a head coach that's going to make every practice. And
I'm sure they do.
So I think that has a impact on it. And shout out to Fife in our chat room. And I mean, look, I agree with him. The simple fact of the matter is, it's not like D'Antoni it's not like he's a bad head coach. But he's not, in my opinion, he's not a championship head coach. He's just not. Anybody that doesn't believe, who has a philosophy that the best defense is scoring a lot more points than the other team, I don't like. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good way to approach any type of sport at all. That's like going into a football game and saying, I'm cool winning 35-28. Well, you're cool winning, but you don't want your defense giving up 28 points a game week in and week out.
Your best defense is a good offense. That's the way he feels.
Yeah, and I just don't like that. But at the same time, look, winning percentage-wise, one of the best in the league over the past, 8, 7, 10 years. Offensive production-wise, one of the best coaches over the last 7, 10 years. Defensive-wise, one of the worst in that same time period. So he's got the talent. I think he's got leadership in Kobe that he's never had before. I think getting Nash, a guy that knows the system, it will help the players get it quicker. But what's going to be interesting is the balance of how he uses Gasol and Howard. The two big men in the paint really clog up the whole way they like to play offense, or the way that D'Antoni likes to execute an offense. He's more drive and kick, pick and roll, so on and so forth. So, are you going to keep Gasol in at the same time as Howard? Are you going to alternate him? Are you going to, that's something that's going to be interesting to see how he handles that. But at the same time, I really don't think this is a terrible situation for the Lakers. I feel like they upgraded a little bit over Mike Brown. So I guess that's really the bottom line question before we go into our break is, did the Lakers upgrade, downgrade, or stay the same in their coaching?
It's an upgrade, but just say Mike Brown got a D for the marking period. With this move, they brought it up to a C. Or, I'm sorry, we brought it up to a B. So we went from a D to a B, a 2-grade jump, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, if they would have went and got Jackson, it means they would have studied a little bit harder and they would have earned that A. They didn't quite get the A, but they got the B. We'll give them a B.
I like how you said
Solid B for the
harder.
hiring, as far as the grading system goes, in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't have a big issue. Like I said, obviously I also have a personal love for Phil Jackson for, you know, bringing championships to Chicago. I'll always love Phil no matter what. You know, so I mean, I look at, you know, Fife says that to him it's more of a wash. To me, I say it's a little bit of an upgrade because I just think Mike Brown was trying to do too much. And I don't think the players wanted him as their head coach at this point. I think you could tell. I mean, between the preseason and the regular season, they won a total of 2 games in a matter of like 14. It's not good. And if you include their, you know, the lack of performance really last year in the playoffs, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's not like this Lakers team under Brown was that good the past year and a half, 2 years. So, look, I will say that, in my opinion, this Lakers team is better off without Mike Brown, but I can't sit here and tell you I think they're that much better off with D'Antoni. I think the D'Antoni issue doesn't come in the regular season. I think that D'Antoni issues arise in the playoffs. And when it comes down to game planning and trying to stop the really good offensive teams like the Thunder, or trying to game plan and stop a well-executing team like the San Antonio Spurs. Because let's be serious, I don't care if Joe Schmo out of the crowd or if the Lakers picked a different fan every night to head coach this roster's too good not to make the playoffs. Hey, I mean, you just got to assume that...
Even with Mike Brown, though, they would have made the playoffs.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think it matters who's coaching them when it comes down to making the playoffs. It's what are they going to do when they get there. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the coaching... That's where you're going to see whether they upgraded or downgraded. You know, that's when it's really going to come true or false. I don't care if they win the next 10 in a row. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, my God, the D'Antoni hire was the greatest thing they ever did. I'm just not. I can't.
No, it's not the greatest thing. The greatest thing they ever could have done was hire Phil Jackson. They didn't do that.
See, and Fife's completely with us. D'Antoni will win you a lot of games, but never a championship.
Well, listen, never say never. And with this squad, he has his best chance to win a title.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to have this year, and he's going to have next year. And then after next year, I mean...
Well, the deal's 3 years, 4th year is a team option.
Well, but what I'm saying, though, is to keep this kind of group of guys together.
This roster, yeah.
Because, to be honest, Nash... 2 more years, that's probably about it for him. Maybe 3.
Kobe.
But on the 3rd, he's probably going to be on the down, severe downslope. You got Kobe, who's, 36 or 37?
Well, Kobe said he wanted to play 2 more years.
Yeah. 3 more years. You got Dwight, who's only signed for this year, who is a free agent at the end of the year. So the Lakers have to put together a good performance if they want to keep him around. You got Gasol, who's old. You got, Meta World Peace, who's, getting up there in age himself. You don't have a lot of youth other than Howard on this roster.
No, they built this team to win right now.
That's the thing is, and they have to win.
For, 10
so they've got 2 years, and this is going to be D'Antoni's best 2 chances to win a championship.
Yeah.
Beyond this, he's going to be back to mediocrity come year 3 or 4.
This Lakers team, it was built to win now. They didn't build this team for longevity in the next 10 years. And